I found Sovereign Health online. I was searching for a treatment center with specifically for mental health, bipolar disorder. This is one of the few ones in the nation, if not alone California. Well, I tried psychiatry on my own. I tried therapy, but I kept having, I guess what you call is emotional relapse. I also suffer from marijuana addiction, so I kind of had relapsed again, very extremely depressed, smoking a lot of weed, and very just lost hope. So I was in that situation again, so I decided to seek long-term treatment. I have an interesting story. I actually came to Sovereign for about 20 days in July, but I had a very negative attitude. And I left and I had a little bit, I've heard some things I took with, but I gradually, my actions I went back to my same reactions and I relapsed again. So this time when I came, I knew that I needed to have a much more positive attitude, but I also knew with my specific diagnosis, I needed long-term. Not 20, 60, 30, I needed the whole 90 days to really establish a baseline and an understanding. This is 90 days today. I just finished, so I'm pretty excited. I'm also nervous. We talked a lot about what to do. Now it's time to do it. I can say, honestly, the number one difference from what I've seen is they have a mental health program specifically for mental health. Like with my diagnoses and just marijuana addiction, I didn't qualify for probably 80% of maybe 90% of treatment centers. And the ones I did find were a lot of private pay. We're talking 5-figure deductible and copays, like out of just. So it's like Sovereign gave me a chance, an affordable chance, and for the my nature, it was a perfect fit. My first impression, that's good. I think like, obviously it's like a little bit, there's a lot going on. You see a lot of people you don't know. You have no idea where you are, essentially. I know the area, but not really specifically, but they did a good job of like getting me right into the therapist and the intake, and right from there I just spent, do all the paperwork and you get established. They fed me, and then I got to the house, and when I got to the house I felt a little more comfortable because it's a little smaller unit. I had a chance to meet some of the guys, face to face, and then once you start, the next day you start going to groups, and then you start establishing yourself and you get into a routine. The number one most important one is medication. My goal was to get stable on medication. I would be lying if I told you that was easy. The thing with psychiatric medication, if you're out there watching this, it is a try and test sort of circumstance or a situation where you honestly don't know how medicine's going to affect you until you try it. And not try it for a day, it's like a week minimum. So it took, 12 weeks to find the right medications. I did do a lot of searching, but as the guys know here, is I don't tolerate side effects. Like, yes, a little, but if I have ringing in my ears, or I'm falling asleep all the time, or I don't feel like myself, I will change meds. So I wasn't scared to change the meds. I think every week I changed something, and then the last 2 weeks we finally got it. So that's how they met the expectation, is I'm leaving, stable on the meds, and I'm gonna stay on these specific meds. Or feel like you're getting force-fed something. Like, there's so many psychiatric medications now. Like, there's not just one antidepressant, there's 20. So if you feel like it's not working, try something else. Oh yeah, the doctor is great. I really appreciated the psychiatrist, smart man. He listened to me, and we had a good relationship. I stayed in two locations, about eight weeks in one, 4 weeks in the other. The first one is a house. It's a 3-bedroom house. You have one roommate. There's a pool, there's a TV, there's a kitchen, there's food and water, and they give you your own space, which is kind of nice. And then I got moved to the quote-unquote reward house, which is more like resort style. And that's like you have your own, I don't want to say condo, but like really small apartment. It's you and another guy, and you have your own living room, your own TV, your own refrigerator, your own kitchen. There's also a pool, hot tub, shuffleboard. And then what happens is that's where you stay, and then they drive you to the center, and that's where you do your groups and your therapy, you see the doctor, and then you go back to the housing. My therapist was actually there for my intake when I said that. And he's like, no, I'm a really sensitive guy. And it's like, okay, I gave him a shot, and I'm glad I did. Charles is a really great therapist. We have a lot of things in common. And I think like he respected me as an equal because I also have a lot of education and experience with other fields and including psychology. So we had this rapport of going back and forth, and we always joke like we're always teaching each other one another. And that's like kind of what I guess I was having a bad experience with therapy is like they would look down at me. You don't know what you're doing. You're in therapy. You obviously are subservient or lower than me. So with him, it was very equal, and I really like that. So that was my therapist. The doctor I already mentioned, great doctor. The staff is all really friendly. You have your counselors, which do the groups. And for the most part, not every group is perfect, obviously. And sometimes the people in the group kind of jar you a little bit funny, but for the most part, I'd say 85% of the groups where, you know, they're put together, they're organized, you have a theme, they let you share, everyone participates, it's not overcrowded. You can tell that most of the counselors really do care. You know, they really want to see you get better. And some of them gave me some really good personal advice. But I would say just, and I'll end on this with the staff and everything, is like you get in what you put out. So it's like I had a really good attitude, and I told them when I got here, like I'm super serious about treatment. And because of that, I treated them with respect, they treated me with respect. I think favorite is a little bit loaded term. I would say the group I got the most out of was the self-esteem groups. And it's like, look, let's identify. Well, first of all, you're sitting in a room with a bunch of people that obviously have not obviously, but also struggle with self-esteem. So you get feedback from your peers, but then you get to target what you feel you have low self-esteem for. You bring it out, you list it, you realize, wait, I'm really not all that bad. Plus then you have people you know with, that you live with, you spend time with, and they have positive encouragement, positive feedback for you, saying like, oh, you see yourself as this, but I see it as this. And it's like, oh. So gradually over the 90 days, one of my biggest things I've improved has been self-esteem. So I think I got the most out of those groups. Family Weekend is great. Recommend it for anyone who has willing family. My parents came, and you know, they do a lunch and a speaker, and we did a group where we like went over some things. You know, this would happen to be codependency, and it's like I learned I was codependent while my parents are sitting right there. It's like, oh, aha moment, me and my sister. And so it's like I had this huge revelation. I started going to recovery for codependency, and like since that I've grown a lot in my relationships. That because they came right away. I was only here 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they came for Family Weekend. So I've had 8, 9 weeks to work on things. But then also a big part for me was we did family therapy, and I had never done family therapy with my parents and my therapist. And there was a lot of clarification about what was going on. And what had happened was my parents didn't know my circumstance. They didn't know when I was taking my meds or when I wasn't taking my meds, or if I was smoking weed, or if I wasn't smoking weed, or if my, you know, all these things. And with the therapy, like brought a lot of clarity together. And we established like my goals, because I'm gonna go back and live with them for a little bit. My goals, like what's expected of me, what I need to do. So I feel like it brought a whole new light onto my illness and how it affects my family and how they understand. And now we're like building and working to build a better relationship with that. What I like most are the people that are serious, and like I made some really good friends here. They started with me, they're ending with me. We're all going out into the world at the same time, totally different areas, but like those people, those are relationships that I really valued. And I shared that with my parents was you come here, you meet people that have bipolar disorder, because explaining bipolar to someone who's not bipolar doesn't make any sense. You know, so you need to find people that have the same, it's probably the same for drug addiction, but have the same, you know, common threads. You feel really understood, and you get really good advice. So I think the relationships with the people here, that's going to be my biggest takeaway. It's the relationships, but it's also, you know, obviously the medication management that I touched on. It's tools. You know, there's a lot of tools, and we go over a lot of different things that you can do when you get out, and you repeat them so you understand, like, okay, when you get out, you got to get your feet moving and start doing those certain aspects. Like, let's just say cognitive behavioral therapy. Like, I learned what that was here, and now I can use that as a tool in my toolbox. So I have all these tools when I go out into the world to do those things. So that relationships, yes, and that's another tool. You see what I'm saying? So it's really the tools that I built here for living. You should come to treatment if you feel like nothing else is working. Like if you feel like you just haven't been able to get your life together and you're still struggling, despite your efforts, despite all the things you've done, you're still like me back in the hole, then you should come. But you shouldn't just come with the idea of treatment's gonna fix me. You gotta come with like, I'm gonna come to treatment, I'm gonna be very serious and work very hard so when I get out, I'm ready to go back into the world, you know? Like I always wanna say, when on this video, if I could say anything, is treatment does not fix you. And if people say treatment doesn't work, it's because the people aren't working the program. I'm a perfect example of someone who's sucked everything out of this program I possibly could. I'm ready to leave, and for that reason, I feel like I'll have success.